Hi, my name is Margaret and welcome to my artsy corner of the internet. And we're going to react to BTS again, because, you know, that is a thing that we do here. I feel like one of the most recommended videos that I get to react to is JHope's Boy Meets Evil, which sounds a little mysterious, a little edgy, and I love JHope, so I'm very excited. But yeah, so without a further ado, I feel like we should just watch the video. We're gonna watch it through once. I'm going to try to be somewhat interesting, probably fail at that, and then we'll go back and we'll analyze it.
My scene was not specifically this or that, but consisted of having shaken hands with the devil. The devil held me in his clutches. The enemy was behind me.
I was not expecting it to go so deep so quickly. Okay, now I'm a little scared. Okay.
Hi, Margaret here. I simply did not react in any way. I just stared, mouth slightly agape, at this video for the full however long it was. So I highly recommend that you guys just go watch it if you haven't seen it before, and then just come back, because I literally did not react to it at all, even though that's what I'm supposed to do when I watch videos, but I didn't do it, I just watched it, so yeah.
I'm not even quite sure how to begin this. Putting thoughts into words is hard. There's something very magnetic about it, where you can't just, at least I personally can't just like halfway watch it. And it might also be just because I'm a dancer, because for most music I can like halfway listen to the music and like it's fine, but like with the videos I feel like I am like fully just like honed in on it. I was not expecting a full out like intense dark monologue. I did not know what I was getting myself in for. I thought it was gonna be a little dancey dance and then a little, but I guess that's kind of on me. I really shouldn't have expected it to be mundane, because I don't think I've ever seen something from BTS that's very like unseasoned. Like if BTS is like a seasoning that you can buy at the grocery store, they just like season the chicken, you know? Like you never get unsalted chicken breasts with BTS. It's definitely very creepy, and they set the tone really well before anything even starts. I think that beginning part is really interesting because he has these little moments, like when he's on the floor where he goes boom, boom. So it feels slightly jerky. And then he stands up and it's not like he's doing these harsh hitting pops yet, like he'll do later, or harsh stopping. It's like sleepy or like subtle. And so that quality continues when he gets up and starts walking. It's almost like zombie-ish. Like a subtle zombie, because they had to have that slight like limp in like the movies. I say that like zombies exist anywhere outside of the movies, but they have like that subtle like jerk almost to all of their movements, and so it's almost like that same quality, which is really cool because you don't usually see a soft jerk. The cool part I think about that first dance break is that it's surprisingly simple. There's not a ton of movement. Well, no, that's not true. There is a lot of movement. This is why I'm having a hard time trying to describe this. There's a lot of movements happening, and there's a lot of style and like the popping, shaking kind of element to all of those moves. So there is a lot happening, but if you boil down his movements to the most like essential basic structure, there's surprisingly little happening. And I think throughout the entire video as well, there's really one location. It's just a simple white shirt and pants. So it's a surprisingly simple video that is just made so intriguing through the way in which it's done, which I think is so much of dance. It's not always necessarily the ingenuity of the actual like biological structure of your body in which position it is, but it's how those bodily positions are done. Watching through the first half of it, they're very, I mean, just in that one point, you know, he probably only does 5 or 6 movements, and a lot of it is like stepping and moving an arm and stuff. And so it's not like there's a lot happening. It's not like you see that move and you're like, I could never do that move in a million years. But at the same time, it gives you the same feeling of I could never do that move because of the way in which it is done. Well, there's 2 things. First of all, I love the little, when he flicks his knee out, he goes down, it's like a wide second position and just flicks the knee out. And again, I think all of the movements are very big and strong, which are happening. And it's a very like expansive kinesphere that he's existing in. And then that little flick of the knee is so detail oriented. So it's no longer this big kinesphere, big sharp movements. And that's the same thing that happens kind of in that first section after I stopped it. All of the steps are demanding and strong and large, and then he contrasts it, he contrasts that with what we just saw, and then with this really, really quick footwork that we just saw. It's such these big, demanding movements, and then he goes into that breakdown of now every single joint is moving so quickly, and he probably did as many moves in those 5 seconds that he did in the entire first half of the piece. And so it's a very clear tonal shift that makes you be like, because you're so used to these big, powerful, with that slightly shaky, because he is doing pop, so there is like that slight reverberation after every move, but they're all very demanding, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't even keep up with what just happened. And then he goes back into this. This gives you then a very visceral emotional response, and you get that after being overwhelmed. So you get these strong, powerful moves, and then you get overwhelmed, and then it breaks from that overwhelming speed with an incredibly like visceral, powerful move, harkening back to that first texture quality that we saw at the beginning. I also love how I feel like that little section is like a breakdown of something slightly more emotional. And it might just be because he goes from standing to then doing this crazy overwhelming arm on the ground, and being on your knees feels more vulnerable. And it really evokes a feeling of being overwhelmed, but like at somebody else's mercy. It feels like that moment is very much reaching some kind of emotional and physical breaking point, and then we see him stomp and quite literally break the ground. It feels like when he breaks the ground, that stomp feels very much like that first kind of section of these big, powerful moves, and then the actual like remnants of the shattered concrete feel very much like the reverberations and those fast moments of near chaos. I love how he puts his foot up by his head, and yet it's never acknowledged. Like sometimes when you do that, you're like, okay, hang on, let me just real quick acknowledge that that's a cool thing to do. But to just be like, anyway, we're gonna, next, what I really liked about this piece, like just not even acknowledging that it happens makes it even cooler, because you're like, wait a second. There's moments in there where there's no choreography and he just kind of like walks, but yet the walk or the looking at the camera or the just kind of existing is done in such a choreographed dance way that it never feels like he's not dancing, even though he's not technically doing dance steps. And I think that's something that hip hop dancers do so well, like so well. They're like in the vibe the whole class. And I'm like, that's great. A lot of times in ballet classes, you'll see somebody and they're doing like the whole like ballet thing, and then they get off stage and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm done. Or like in class, like as soon as the combination's done, they'll be like, okay. But I feel like hip hop dancers, they just stay in the vibe the whole class and the whole performance. I really liked this last editing of the jump. There's like this like little climax before the end of it, because now he's pulling out like his power moves, and now you see him doing back bends and huge jumps, and it's been a very nice kind of progression, and then to end on this like peak. In YouTube, they apparently have this thing now where you can see where like the most replayed sections are, and I feel like it kind of maps out the energy of the piece, I feel like, really well. Because it's kind of like, the intro, the opening, and then it spikes right here a little bit at the first like kind of overwhelming, what I called it, section. And then it continues on, and then, there's kind of like this like emotional story-driven section where he's like on his knees, and then it grows until he's doing all of these power moves and putting his feet near his head and doing this jump right here, and then it kind of goes into the end. And I just think it's kind of funny that the parts that are like the most rewatched by whatever algorithm YouTube's calculating this by, it's similar to the energy of the piece. I think that's at least the energy that I see in the piece. I think that's fascinating. So maybe y'all agree with me. I also like the use of the black light. Sorry, I just got that when he does his two little flips, it's not just a cool transition, but it's literally like he's flipping to the underside. And this piece is obviously dealing with evil, the underworld. Interesting. I also think that whole little section is really nice because at the beginning it was much more like a hit and reverberate feeling, and that one almost feels like somebody's pushing him instead of the action and reaction all coming from within. It feels almost like something else is pushing him, and that's a hard kind of quality to imitate, is the feeling of somebody pushes you when there's nobody else there. And it feels what I really enjoy about this is that there feels to be this like very intimate emotional dialogue throughout the piece, which is not, I don't think in like a pop culture kind of reference. I don't think when people think of hip hop dance, they think of like an emotional kind of vulnerable feeling. Like usually it's all about power and strength and, you know, like being sassy and being like proud. So I think seeing it, I mean, not to say that this has never been done before in hip hop, but I think it's really interesting to see that vulnerability in a style that I don't think always emphasizes that particular emotion. I don't know, it's similar how like contemporary dancers and like concert contemporary never make like happy pieces. I have a lot of like half-developed ideas right now. Well, I can fully see why people wanted me to watch that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I feel like at the end of all of these videos, I'm always just like, and now I will go and think about that piece for the next hour. And then I'll look back at the video and be like, wow, there's so many things I didn't say just because I sat there going. Definitely let me know your thoughts, opinions, feelings down below. Anything that I missed, anything that you were thinking of. If you want to finish any of my thoughts for me, because mine were slightly incoherent, you should do that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys again soon, maybe at like another video. Yeah, okay. Bye.